Hello, my friend Gerard Barnett and I, Oscar Patiño, have the pleasure of presenting small interview. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Let's begin by talking about your typical daily routine as half equipment technician.
Good morning. I'm glad to be here. To start my day, I usually begin around 7 a.m. performing routines inspection of the equipment that we have in the yard. I focus on ensuring the machines are in good working order, checking the engine, hydraulics, and electrical systems. If I see any issues, I make a note to address them right always.
Can you tell about what your typical Monday morning like when you start your shift?
Sure, on Mondays, my first task is to inspect the equipment that has been on job the previous week. I perform visual check for any sign of damage or wear, especially focusing on the engine, hydraulics, and electrical system. I use diagnostic tools to assess any issues, particularly for machinery like excavator or bulldozer. Once the inspection is done, I either schedule repairs or preventive maintenance based on the findings.
When you're diagnostic and troubleshoot and issues with heavy equipment, what's your usual process? Can you give an example of a recent problem you fixed?
My approach is methodical. I start with a visual inspection to spot obvious issues, and I use diagnostic equipment like scanner to analyze the machinery's electrical system. For example, last week I had to troubleshoot a loader with an electrical failure. Using a multimeter, I traced the problem to a faulty alternator. Once I replaced and detected the system, the loader was back to working condition.
Hydraulic systems are a big part of heavy equipment. How do you handle maintenance and repair of the TC system? Could you describe a time when you had to replace a hydraulic component?
Hydraulic systems are critical, so I always make sure to check for leaks, check fluid levels, and inspect hoses and pumps. A few weeks ago, I working on the bulldozer with a hydraulic leak. After testing the system, I found the valve and worked out. And replaced the valve, released the connection, and tested the pressure to ensure everything was running smoothly again.
Preventive maintenance is a big responsibility. Tasks do you typically perform and how do you prioritize them?
Preventive maintenance involved like changing filters, fluids, belts, and checking essential systems like the brakes and transmission. I prioritize based on the manufacturer's guideline and the years of use. For example, if an excavator being heavily used, I prioritize engine oil change and inspect the hydraulic system. I also make sure to calibrate equipment regularly to maintain optimal performance.
When you encounter engine issues like overhead or the performance drops, what step do you take for an engine overhaul?
For engine overhauls, I start by disassemble the engine careful and inspecting and the component, switch and the turbochanger, valve and pulley system. If I find work parts and replace them, for example, I recently worked on a diesel engine that was overheating. I replaced the wall thermostats and flushed the radiator. After reassembled the engines, I conducted a full performance test to ensure it was running optimally.
Electrical issues are common on heavy equipment. How do you typically handle electrical system problems? And what tool do you use?
I typically start by checking the batteries and alternator, as they are the most common issues. I use diagnostic scanner to check the electrical system and troubleshoot wiring problems. For instance, on a recent job, I used a scanner to pinpoint the faulty alternator on a loader. Once the problem was identified, I replaced the alternator and tested the electrical system to make sure everything was functioning properly.
If you're working or multiple repair jobs in a day, how do you manage your time and priorities tasks?
Time management is key in this job. I prioritize in the urgencies. If there is equipment that done on job site, and handle the first. If I hide several machines in the stock, I look and which one need the most immediate attention, like those with safety use or those required for high priority projects. I usually write down my day into blocks, focusing on one task at a time, to staying flexible in the case an emergency repairs comes up.
Welding and fabricates are sometimes part do you repair. Can you tell us about time you had to wheel a fabricate a part through resort equipment?
Sure, there was one intense wheel and down truck came with the crate frame. I used the welder to join the crate areas and reinforce the frame. I also had to fabricate a custom parts to replace a broken brake that was really available. Once the welding was done, I tested the frame under load to ensure it could handle the heavy lifting required.
Safety is crucial. How do you ensure that the equipment you're working on meets safety standards, and how do you maintain safety during repair?
Safety is always my priority. I'm making sure to follow our manufacturing guidelines and safety protocols, including wearing the necessary personal protective equipment (PPE). I also conduct regular safety checks, sure to ensure the brake system are fully functional and that there are no issues with hydraulic pressures before sending equipment back to the fields. And making sure everything is safe for operation, especially critical components like the transmission and engine.
Have you ever been involved in upgrade or modification to equipment? How you share experience you install it and upgrade or modified equipment for site or operation reasons?
I began to install GPS system and upgrade engine to meet the new operational standard. For example, a clean waste and more fuel efficient engine for one of their excavator and conditioner with supplies, remove the old engine and install the new one. I also upgrade the control system to ensure compatibility with the new engine, making sure everything works as expected before sending it back to the site.
After completing repairs or upgrades, how do you ensure that the equipment is the function at its best?
After any repair or upgrade, I always test the equipment under normal operating conditions, check for any regulators in performance, such as unusual vibration, noise, or temperature fluctuations. For calibration, I use manufacturing tools and settings to ensure the equipment meets industry standards. For example, I calibrate excavator hydraulics to ensure precision and efficiency during digging.
At the end, to it more, you're responsible for organize the part warehouse. How do you manage inventory to you ensure you're stocked for upcoming repair?
I regularly review the parts inventory, checking for any shortage or upcoming need based on the work order. I maintain a list of commonly used parts and make sure was have no store for upcoming repairs. If a part is low, I order it in advance to avoid an annual delays in repairs. I also keep detailed record to track parts, use and streamline the ordering process for future months.
Thank you for sharing your experience and for your detailed answer. It's clear that you have strong understanding of the technician and operation aspect behind heavy equipment technician. Will be a touch after the finish or interview.
Thank you, especially the opportunity to discuss my experience. I look forward to hearing from you.